Welcome to day one of The Ethical Entrepreneur, a speaker series to inspire you as business owners and entrepreneurs to make a difference in the world through ethical and sustainable business practices. I'm Marika Timmers, and over the next 21 days, I'm going to be sharing the insights and expertise from those that have either already built such businesses or support others in doing so. The inspiration behind the speaker series came to me around the Christmas and New Year period. After the year that we'd had with COVID, with many people working from home or unemployed, and businesses realizing something needs to change. I imagined a lot of you at a crossroad in your careers, your businesses, and in your lives. And I wanted to inspire you to give you the tools to make a start or to develop on what you've already started. This is called the Ethical Entrepreneur, but that is not a label I give myself. It's a journey I'm on with you. And I can't wait to experience all the learnings and awaken all the ideas and inspiration inside of you. So thank you for joining me today and for the next few weeks as we explore what it takes to be an ethical entrepreneur. And where better to start than with mindset. My first guest, Rhian Sherrington, is the founder of the International Women in Sustainability Network, which was created to help female changemakers access a powerful community of like-minded women being a force for good. Following the founding of her eco-experience company, teaching geography and ecology field studies, 12 years working on sustainable behaviour change initiatives, Rhian retrained as a professional coach. She has published 2 books on confidence and career transitions and is now busy coaching others on how to fulfill theirs and making a big difference to this beautiful world. Welcome, Rhian.
Hello, thank you so much for that introduction. It's lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you on our first interview of the series.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
So our topic today is all about how to prepare your mindset to be able to share your gifts with the world. Now, when you often work with women, but this is obviously relevant to men too. We're not excluding all of you wonderful men out there. Let's go back to COVID. I mentioned it in my introduction.
Yeah.
COVID has no doubt shifted our perspective on life and on purpose, and also in the role of business. As a coach and founder, what changes have you seen in the past 6 to 12 months across your networks?
I think the biggest shift I've seen is this acceleration of what was already there. So this acceleration of people going, well, what's the point if there isn't a purpose behind it? So I think those seeds were already there, but the experience of working from home and this whole sort of, oh my goodness, the world turning upside down, and particularly here in the UK where I am, everybody, working from home, everything shut down on and off the last 12 months. People have really started to question, what am I doing? What's the purpose of everything? And I think that was already there, but it's really accelerated. And alongside that real sense of, oh my goodness, things can really get uncertain like that. So how do I cope with that? Everything I thought was okay, really established businesses suddenly losing all their clients, and everything disappearing, not quite overnight, but virtually. I mean, I was actually out in Sydney when COVID hit quite badly in the UK, and everything went into lockdown, and I didn't even know if I was going to have women in sustainability when I came back, because it was all about bringing people together in person in events around these local hubs. So I think there was that real shift of, oh my goodness, what's the point? Why am I doing it? That purpose becoming very much at people's forefront. Because if you are going to try and struggle through and work, you're going to be questioning, is that really important to me? Why am I doing that? And you can see that shift happening from SMEs all the way through into really big businesses now, because I think the second big thing that's happened is the well-being of people. people really understanding that social dimension of what makes a really truly ethical business. And actually it's about looking after your people, because if you don't have your people there flourishing, even doing okay, you haven't got anything. And you've seen some incredible shifts, I think, in people stepping up and going, okay, let's support people working from home, let's support this flexible working. And I think we're still in that change. We're still working it through. Particularly we're still in the third lockdown here in the UK. We'll be coming out of it now in the springtime, but people are saying, actually, I like working from home, I don't have to do this crazy commute, let's see what's going to bring. So I think those things have been really accelerated, and that well-being and purpose being central, I think they're here to stay.
And connected, right? Because if people work from home more, there's hopefully less cars on the road.
It's hard. I mean, it's going to be an interesting balance, isn't it? Because some people are saying as soon as we're out of lockdown, we'll all be rushing to fly all over the place. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it'd be interesting to see this connection to community, because that's the one thing I've really seen. I mean, people are very tired of being online, I think,
yes.
But they've also appreciated the connection they have actually found online. So they've created these new communities. And with our women's sustainability events, we have managed to shift everything online, and it's been fantastic, that attendance and people really able to access that like-minded community. But I think we all realize we're missing that face-to-face. But we'll see what I mean, we saw that massive drop in the UK with carbon emissions over the last year, and we desperately need to see that. So it's going to be interesting to see what, will that stay? Will that happen? But I don't think city centres, I don't think how we work is going to go back to what it was at all. I think the world has completely fundamentally changed, and how we can cope with that, that's going to be an interesting journey for many.
Yeah, I agree. I think, one of the things that you were saying earlier was around, really rethinking that purpose and redefining that purpose. And, you mentioned a few of the mechanics too. And for me anyway, I think that just reinforces that purpose doesn't actually change if you've got, a very clear, strong purpose. But the mechanics around how you deliver that purpose is what probably needs to change as, as businesses adapt, as the environment changes, as the market changes, as things like COVID come into effect, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is why it's really important, not just as entrepreneurs, but even people in business, professionals. I think the time you spent getting to know what your values are is never time wasted. And I think when we truly do that inner work to uncover what they really are, not just the surface level of, oh yes, honesty, respect, integrity, you have to go deeper than that, and you have to understand what's truly important to me and how do I want to experience that in my life. And I think this has been a good opportunity to really pause. For many have been doing that thinking, and not just seeing work in this little isolated, solitary cell. We are a whole person. So it's looking at the whole round of things. How do I actually want to be living my life on this beautiful planet without destroying it? And I think that's what people have really, you can access through, looking at your values in a really deep and meaningful way. And yes, having a clear vision, your vision may change over time, but once at least you've got a North Star. Your values create right. That sense of, this is why I'm here, this is what's truly important to me. And then it's okay, how do I go about experiencing that in the everyday? And that will lead you then to think about, well, what's that difference do I want to make? And from an entrepreneurial perspective, what's the difference I want to make? What's the problem I want to solve? There's that lovely model called Ikigai, and they're the 4 concentric circles. What do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need, and how, and what can I be paid for? And I think that's what people have really woken up to, understanding they need to be in that central overlap of all 4 circles.
Yeah, I love what you said also about the whole person. And I think we have a lot to thank COVID for around that too, because working from home and challenging, the family life and the household duties and everything else and work, I think for me anyway, and a lot of my clients, it's given us all a new appreciation for, you know, the person behind that corporate veil or the business or yeah.
And I think that's the other thing we're going to see emerging is, so I think purpose has been here for a long time, and it's accelerated. But now I think you're going to see the people behind the business coming forward a lot more. And I was in a really interesting masterclass recently when we were really talking about the need to get comfortable with, particularly as an entrepreneur, about being that person behind the business. Now, personally, I'm far more comfortable being behind a business. You know, I like the fact it's women's sustainability, which is out there. But I'm realizing now that actually we connect to people. And I think that's the challenge I'm seeing in our entrepreneurs, in our community in women's sustainability. They're realizing, those who've done really well in this transition have been able to step up and start to go, okay, let's talk about me a bit more then. Let's talk about why I'm doing this. Let's find a way where I can communicate my story in a way that's right for me, that's authentic for me, and not to be fearful of being that person. So I think that's going to, you know, again, that's been there even more. That's not a new trend, but I think we're going to be seeing that come forward even more, because we want to connect with people. And that's what I think we need to be really aware of, particularly if we are a small, you know, an SME sized business, not to be afraid of doing that.
Absolutely. You know, I think that's what differentiates you at the end of the day too, right? Your values and who you are. If you are behind that business and driving that business, that's a key differentiator. There is no one else like you.
Definitely. And I think people, you know, it's not about being right or the best. I think we do have to do this inner work. You know, some people are very confident naturally. But there'll be something that they'll struggle with, and they feel that they're not so good at, or they lack confidence in. But other people might be brilliant at their business, but then lack confidence in, you know, in terms of talking about it. But yeah, I think we need to understand that when we bring all of ourselves to that picture, if we allow ourselves to identify those stories we do want to share and talk about those values, then people want to listen. People will want to connect with us.
Yeah. So we've touched on it a little bit, but what does mindset have to do with all of this? And how do we know if or when ours is ready for change?
Such a good question. What I think sometimes people forget about change is that, you know, there's a process we go through which is called transition. And so change happens, and then we have a response to that change. And this is the mindset piece, because there is an aspect. There are some people who thrive in change, and they really do. They love that sort of the challenge that uncertainty brings, and so they're ready, you know, and they're quick to respond. And that's their behavioural preferences. I wouldn't say personality, but their behavioural preferences. It's like how they like to show up in the world. And so for them, that mindset of just adapting, they're fine. They won't struggle at all. But they are quite a small minority of the population, to be honest. And a lot of people really don't really like change. And for them, this transition with it is going to be harder. It's going to feel difficult because they want to hang on to certainty. And they don't like dealing with some of the conflicts or the issues that might resolve from change shifting. Some of those difficult conversations you might have to have with people. Oh dear, the business isn't going in the direction I thought it was going to be going in. Or actually, I feel deeply unhappy. I'm going to have to really change my life all around it. And they might not want to do that because it's their personal preference wanting to have things fairly certain and to have it anchored down. But it's not to say they can't change. And so I think one way of understanding whether or not you're ready for change is where you are in this transition curve. And perhaps if I just explain this transition curve slightly, then you might understand what I mean. So change happens. You know, sometimes it's sudden, being made redundant, you know, or being furloughed, or, you know, and we get this response, you know, we often are angry. There's a response, there's a bit of emotion to it. But then we go into often a bit of denial. And there's this sort of sense of, I want to go back to that. I don't want to move forward. And you want to look back to it. And then, so that's called this letting go phase. And this is all taken from some fantastic work by William Bridges. It's an old book, but Making Sense of Transition, Making Sense of Change is his book. But then you see this deep dive in emotion. And this is when you feel it's chaotic. You know, it's very uncertain. You feel very, like, you feel unanchored, I think is one of the best ways a client of mine has described it. So everything is discombobulated, you're disorganized, you can't make sense, you keep on changing your mind. And this is in this total middle ground of this curve. And you're not really supposed to push yourself to change at this point. The psychologists looking at this and how we respond say, well, actually, this is when you need to just bear with it and sit in that chaos. This is why mindfulness is such a good practice for entrepreneurs, you know, doing some mindful walking, doing some meditation, journaling, but you kind of just need to sit with it and just explore and be curious. And then what happens is a little bit over time, you know, you can't, so people's cycles will change. Some people move through this very quickly. Some people will take longer. But what happens is you start to see a level of acceptance. And I think that's the key thing to look out for, is are you starting to get that acceptance that, okay, maybe I could try things differently. Maybe there is a new path for me that I haven't thought about yet. And your energy levels return, and you sort of come out of this low, because it is quite a low mood. You know, you're bobbing up and down here a bit, and some people can go very deep with that low mood. But then you have this start of acceptance, which grows, and you start to experiment. And you're not quite there yet. You're not quite into this new beginning, but you're willing to test things out. And sometimes, again, people can get a bit frustrated with themselves. Oh, why do I don't know what I want to do? Why do I keep on changing my mind over the track I should be taking my business, and so on? But you just got to trust the process, because what will happen is one of those shoots will grow and you will follow it. And then that's when you're into this new thing, this new beginning, and you've got that return of energy. And so with all of this, I think part of the problem entrepreneurs may struggle with a mindset shift to do with change is they don't appreciate this internal transition process they're going through. And we waste a lot of energy beating ourselves up over, why shouldn't I be in this new beginning already? You know, I've just been sacked and I want to start up my business, or I knew I've resigned and I wanted to start up this business. Why am I struggling? And it's because actually you've got this letting go to do, and we're not very good at doing that letting go as humans. You know, it's quite a natural thing not to want to let go of how we used to do things or our view on life. But if we just trust the process, and I often share this graph actually with my clients and say, look, this is what you're going through. And it's not linear, you know, you may go back a bit.
Yeah.
The fact that you will do it. And those people with that real ability to thrive through change, they could move through this very quickly, but others might take their time. I'm more on the slow side. In all of the changes, I think I've probably changed career about 4 or 5 times. And when I look back on this now, I can see exactly what I was doing and why it was so hard. So I wish I'd had that information a while ago, but I think it does help. But I think in terms of recognizing when we're ready to change, have I got that acceptance? Have I recognized what I need to let go of? Am I aware of my behavioral preferences around change? So if I know I don't really like things to be that shifting, what can I do to help myself find a bit of certainty and comfort when everything is changing around me? And for those people who find, oh yeah, no, this is easy, I can change, I would, often actually don't move too quickly. Yeah. Because you may miss stuff and you may move too fast and make some expensive mistakes.
I found personally that uncomfortable space for me, I've become, if it's right to say, more comfortable sitting in the discomfort of it all, because I know that discomfort is actually right on that phase of breakthrough for me. Once I move through that, I know on the other side of that, it's all upside from there.
That's what they say.
I am becoming much more comfortable with that discomfort.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say, isn't it? What got you to where you are now isn't likely to be what's going to take you forward. And I see that a lot in people I work with around leadership. because often when that next step for you, that big upward growth is going to require you to reappraise how you approach things. So yeah, change is I could talk so much about change, but it's a fascinating thing. But there's a lovely book out there. I've forgotten the author, but it's called Metamorphosis: How and Why People Change. I can't remember the author, but I do recommend it because it's full of stories about how people have really changed their lives. And I think right now that's such a useful thing to read about, because you can understand change can happen like that, or change can be steady. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just how you are willing to how you want to make that journey. But I found that book very helpful. So yeah, it's Metamorphosis: How and Why People Change.
Great. So let's change tack a little bit.
Okay.
I want to talk about maybe money mindset, some other mindset issues you see in entrepreneurs, and often in discussions with high integrity business owners, there's a conflict around purpose and profit. Profit can sometimes be seen as a bit of a dirty word in some circles. So what are the biggest mindset issues you see in people wanting to make a difference in the world?
I think you've just said it. I think a lot of people, because of how we've been brought up and what we've seen around us, perhaps when we were growing up, associate a lot of very negative things to those people who've got money. And we have this, this is a really interesting exercise for people to do, actually. If you just list what are all the negative things you know about money? What are the negative things you've ever been told about money or understand about money? And when you start to write it down, you can get quite amazed by how much negativity you hold around having money. So straight away, that's going to be a problem, isn't it? Because if you've got this relationship with money, which is actually money's not a very nice thing, and all the bad people, all the unpleasant people they're the ones that have money, then you go, that's not for me. I don't want to be like that. My identity is I'm not that person. My values are over here. And so I think that caused it's like a real deep subconscious schism for people, that you really want to bring that up to the surface. You really need to understand what is your relationship with money and how do you view money. In coaching world, we talk about limiting beliefs, these things that we've been programmed from a very early age. It's in our unconscious. Some of these beliefs are helpful, but the stuff that's unhelpful are limiting us. And many people feel that they're not good enough or it's not for them. This idea of having this lovely, thriving life, because basically we've been struggling for a very long time, in terms of going back into our ancestry and all our stories and the myths around us, probably. So we have to break that. We have to be very conscious to understand, what do we think about money? How do we view money? And coming from the charitable sector, it's not uncommon to find a lot of people going into the charitable sector because they don't like to make money, or maybe it's not quite as strong as that. It's that money doesn't really mean that much to them. And I think this is where it can get a little bit unhelpful as an entrepreneur, because actually you do want to make money. You do want to be profitable, because that's when you can make the biggest impact. That's telling you the impact you're making. And then other people go on to create amazing charities, like yourself, or do lots of different things with that income. So, but often in that charitable sector, you see even the marketing managers and directors having this weird relationship with money where they don't really want it, and yet they're supposed to be going out and fundraising for it. So I think how that then shows up is people who feel they're very driven by purpose don't pay enough attention to money. Right. And I think they don't pay enough attention to the figures. And I've lost count now, the number of people who I've coached and I've gone, okay, tell me your figures. Tell me, what's your bottom line? What's your middle figure? What's your dream figure? And they don't want to tell me. They haven't really thought about it. It's all up here. They've never written anything down. And so that financial acumen and the financial planning and all of the skill and all that information that you have as an entrepreneur, it's so valuable. They're missing out because they're not doing it. And I'll put my hands up, that was me. Good 6 years ago, that was me. Oh, well, let's just set up this Women's Sainsbury network. Let's just coach people, to flourish in their lives. Didn't really want to spend much time looking at my books. always forgot to do it. And then I suddenly realized what I was doing, and I really uncovered then that I didn't really like money. So I think that's what people need to be aware of, is that can really scupper you at quite a deep, fundamental level. It's one of these things of people often talk, they get to a point, and then why can't I get beyond that point? And it's all, well, okay, let's start to look at some fundamentals. And often it's a question of just unpacking the fear. Because if any kind of block is there, it's because you've got some kind of fear around it. And so when we truly understand what that is, then we can create some real transformations. I'm not a neuroscience, but I love the whole neuroscience world of the whole neuroplasticity that we're coming to really understand now. And we, from that branch of science, we really understand we can rewire our brains, and we can think differently through a little bit of practice. We can do it. And so, we can reprogram ourselves to have a better relationship with money. We just got to start to pay attention to what we truly think about it. Because I'm there with the B Corp. Of course you can have a lovely, flourishing business that's making money, it's making a profit, but it has purpose right the way through it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. There's also often judgment, I find, in this space around how much good you should be doing. And I wanted to use the opportunity in the first interview to lay the foundations for that, because for me there is absolutely no judgment. But often, unless you're doing it all, a lot of businesses can be pulled up for greenwashing, and quite often for what they're not doing, not necessarily what they are doing. And particularly in New Zealand, we have this thing called the tall poppy syndrome, where those doing really well are cut down, and as a result, a lot of businesses, and this is coming from a marketer, it breaks my heart to see this, many businesses staying quiet about all the amazing work they're doing for people and the planet, because they are fearful of that judgment. Yeah. What's your take on that, and how can we be more resilient?
Well, first of all, I think we've got now the Sustainable Development Goals, the global goals, and I think straight away it's fairly easy to sort of look at those goals and say, this is what I'm working towards. But I think you're right. I think there are some harsh critics, and I think actually some people who are very embedded in the environmental movement, have been there for a long time, doing some amazing work. They can almost be the worst critics, because they'll say, okay, you're working towards the Sustainable Development Goals. You've told me it's goal 3 or it's goal 4, but what are you really doing? Like, look at the targets. What are your indicators? What are your KPIs? So I think that's there, but that's there as a high level bar to look forward, to work towards. Yeah. So what I think is vital in all of this is that you're just truthful, you're just honest. And when you go back to your values, you can look at what you've got there and go, okay, what are the values that we're currently living and experiencing right now in my business? And what's my aspirational values? What's my aspirational values and the behaviors that are associated with that? And then tell us. Tell the consumer, so that this is what we're currently doing, this is what I'm currently working towards, and this is where we'd like to go. We know we're on this journey. And I think there's nothing wrong in saying, I know I haven't got it all sorted. This is what we'd like to do. I feel passionately about reducing carbon, reducing waste, circular economy, whatever it is that you've identified as something that you really want to be signing up your business to, reducing. Carbon tracking is fairly easy. There's so many simple tools out there to track your carbon, and you can then immediately offset if you wanted to, and there's so many interesting companies. Look for the gold standard, though, that you do need to discern. You do need to discern what you might offset with and what kind of accrediting system you might go for. But everybody understands you're on a journey with it. So even within the B Corp movement, people can see that they've got a tracker that you can work online to, and that'll help you understand what actions you could be taking. Yeah. But even a simple thing, all of us run businesses, we need the internet. Yeah, we need the internet. We often, most businesses have a website. Go for a green provider. Find a green hosting provider for your website and put that badge on your business page, and that's a start. So I think, to sum up, don't be scared of making, don't be scared of saying you want to make a difference. Tell us that story, tell us your whys, tell us what you're aspiring towards, and then decide, set yourself some goals over what you'd like to achieve over the year. What's doable, properly doable for you. Is it about doing this sort of quick carbon check to see the difference you're making? Is it about saying, actually, I can't do that, but what I could do is do a 10% into a social enterprise or 10% into charity? I haven't got time to think about it too much. There's some amazing schemes out there. One's called B1G1, where you can look at every time somebody buys something off you, you contribute to a fantastic program somewhere, and they will tell you then the sustainable development goals that you're working towards. And I think that's this global thing we can all be working towards, the SDGs, and there's many ways in which you could measure against that. So don't be afraid of it, and just make a start, I'd say.
Yeah, I love what you said about, not being afraid to talk about where you're at in the journey, I think gone are the days where it's believable or even interesting that everyone has all the answers, and, are doing everything perfectly. There's a lot more connection, I think, in those real stories and sharing the challenges as much as the successes.
Definitely.
So my final question, Rhian, is one I'm going to ask all of my speakers. So for all of you out there, get used to this one. As someone with significant experience in consulting and coaching, but also in building nonprofits and networks, if you knew when you were starting out what you now know, what would you do differently?
Well, I have to mention the money. So I think not being afraid of that whole financial stuff, and just don't overcomplicate it, but just really get clear. As simple as things like, make sure you've got a separate business bank account. I didn't do that for a while when I just had my coaching business, because it didn't feel I needed to, but it caused so much problems. So, getting your business bank account sorted, and find a system that works for you. I mean, I realize I'm a visual learner, so I had to find an online a bookkeeping system that gave me lots of graphs, and then it was fun. So doing my books, now I hand it over to somebody else, and when I was doing it myself, I made it fun. So I think I wish I'd understood a little bit more about my weaknesses a little bit more at the start, to do with this, how I prefer to do things. I think when you're in an organization, when you're an employee, you've got lots of people to do these things for you. And what I've realized, on my entrepreneurial journey and through working to others, actually, you really do need to do a little bit of understanding yourself, really understanding yourself. And I think I'm grateful, because I had to do that anyway on the coach training journey I was on. So that's how I got to realize, actually, you're not so good on the detail, Rhian. Make sure you've got somebody to hold the detail for you, and use the visual clues to help you. So I think if I'd implemented some of that knowledge a bit sooner, that would have been helpful. And then I think maybe finding my tribe. I mean, I think this is why I've set up Women's Sustainability, because all of my friends were employees. Nobody I knew when I first started out was trying to run their own business. And I went to some women in business networking. I really hated the mixed gender, very, very salesy, very, very aggressive. But I did start to go to a women's only networking club, if you like, and I was blown away by that support. But it wasn't really my tribe. That was a while ago now, but trying to explain sustainability to them was a bit of a pain. And so that inspired me to set up Women's Sustainability, to create that community. So I think that's finding your community. Don't be, go out there, test things out. Because I think if I'd done that a bit sooner, well, I realized there was a gap for me, but that would have really helped me. So I think now to have those people around you that you can really connect to and collaborate, that has made a big difference to me now. And that would be nice if I'd realized that a bit sooner as well.
So speaking of which, I understand you've got an offer for women or anyone in the audience that identifies as female. And before you make that offer, I just need to say also, please don't worry, men, there will be additional opportunities for you also throughout the 21 days. We are just getting started. Do you want to just mention what that is, Rhian?
Sure. Well, I mean, the Women's Sustainability Network is global, and so you can find us on LinkedIn and start connecting with other entrepreneurs and professional women who are working to be a force for good. That's what we're here to do. But we've also just reopened our digital community, which is this online platform creating a wonderful opportunity to connect and access peer mentoring and coaching support with women from around the world who are all in it to make a difference and to create that purpose as well as profit in the work that they do. So you can find out more at womeninsustainability.net/subscribe. But we're just on the start of our 10 days reopening to new members with that digital community.
Fantastic. An amazing initiative for any woman out there wanting more support with their businesses. So Rhian's interview, sorry, did you want to add something?
No, I was saying that absolutely, and for our female professionals as well. But yeah, that was it.
Thanks, Rhian. So Rhian's interview, and actually all our interviews, are only available for 48 hours from the time that you receive the email. And this is really just to build momentum and collective energy throughout the series. There is still time to get the VIP package, which gives you access to all the interviews until 2025. So that is long enough to implement all of this good stuff. So jump in if you want to refer to any of this as you grow your business over the next few years. There's loads of extra bonuses in there as well. So please do take advantage of that. Over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be talking certifications, sustainable investment, carbon offsetting, purpose-led sales and marketing, just to name a few of our subjects. The key themes for this series are 4 Ps. I'm a marketer, so I love the 4 Ps. Close to my heart, but they are a little different here. So instead of product, price, promotion, and place, we'll be talking purpose, people, planet, and profit. My next speaker has a wealth of experience, literally building wealth, but doing so in a way that serves others. You are not going to want to miss what he has to say. So I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care.